We didn't grow up rich. I was the middle son, so
Okay.
by the time I got my age, we had the taste of money. So we never had everything. We didn't have the brand new cars, but we had a nice car.
Okay.
We didn't have 10 pair of Uggs. We had one pair of Pumas or whatever it was.
Yep.
But always had the nice stuff. You
Yeah.
know? So it was kind of getting that taste. I was like, man, I want to always have nice things.
We're here at the lodge.
Yep.
I've got Scott Boroff here, currently CEO of Healthcare Integrated Technologies,
Yep.
which I'm on the board of directors for,
Love it.
and really enjoying this.
Yeah. It's
So,
been fun.
so we're just really enjoying the opportunities and the really incredible people. But HITC is the way we refer to that.
Right.
As a AI technology company focused on developing effective monitoring technologies for seniors. We've been in a 2-day board retreat,
Right.
getting clear on
focus,
the
vision.
future and,
Yep.
and the packaging of it, and for the people who are watching this that are out there, one of the new channels that I'm starting is a channel called Person of Interest.
Okay.
It's around the book I wrote called Person of Interest,
Right.
and it's just kind of deconstructing people who are on the move, because I think people of interest are fascinating people.
Yeah.
They've lived fascinating lives.
Yeah.
They're hanging around fascinating people, and they're doing fascinating things,
And having fun at the
which
same
and
time.
having fun, which
Getting up every day doing what you love with people that
that's
you
right.
love.
And I think you're in that category.
Yeah.
I think you've lived a very fascinating
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
I think you've been involved in fascinating things, and all of this has uniquely qualified you to set you up to do this. So let's go back a little bit into your past and talk about some of the I guess how you got involved in the entrepreneur game. Your dad was an entrepreneur.
He was.
And
Never
did
had
he
a job his
teach
whole
you?
life.
Did he teach you lessons? I mean, when did it click with you that it's like, you're learning these lessons? Because my daughter's 12, and I'm always teaching her
Yeah.
things, and
Yeah.
I wonder if she gets that Dad's, a cool entrepreneur. Like he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Well, I think I got my personality from my mom. She was outgoing, and I got my business acumen from my dad. So he worked.
Yeah.
He worked very hard, too hard, but he never had a job. He had his own jobs. He was in commercial real estate development and insurance.
Yep.
Board for real estate and insurance, and so I just watched him grow his, from developing subdivisions and small shopping centers to developments. He had a very keen eye for good deals, which
Okay.
I think some of my talent and some of my sayings is my dad said, you make your money when you buy, not when you sell. At an early age, he said, it doesn't matter if it's cars, t-shirts, houses, whatever. You make your money when you buy, not when you sell. And so selling is just a monetization of what you've already done. And so I think early on, that's what I learned from him, because he would literally go look at a piece of property and it would have trees all over it. And he's like, I said, Dad, why'd you buy that property? He said, well, I'm gonna put a D6 dozer on it next week. We're gonna clear the trees out. And he had a vision for what it could be.
Yeah.
And he would literally do that. And a property that couldn't sell, that would sit on the market for a year, he would buy it at a good deal because it's set for the market, and then do something with it, and then sell a piece of the property off and clear the rest of it.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, that's nice.
So did he instill in you a confidence,
Yep.
a boldness?
Boldness.
Because it's like you and I are both Price Pritchett fans,
Yep,
right?
love him.
Dr.
Love
Dr. Price Pritchett, and he said you're taking a risk either way. You're risking. If you do nothing, you're risking staying the same. But if you take a risk, and either way you could win, and either way you could lose.
You've been successful doing nothing at your same job your whole
right.
life, which is nothing wrong with that.
That's right.
If that makes you happy. But this never has made
So
me
did
happy.
did he instill that in you? Like, hey, the entrepreneur gets paid when they create value, when they sell something, when they buy something. So was that something that you had earlier? Or did you pick up? But where along the way did you pick up that boldness?
It was just knowing that I worked. One of my first jobs was at Kroger's, making like $2.05 an hour for 40 hours a week, $80 to $100. Time they take out taxes and union dues, I'm like, man, this is a tough deal. And then he loaned me $5,000 the next summer to go and buy and wholesale cars. So I learned how to go to the same places that the big dealerships went to buy cars. I'm sitting there buying with the biggest dealerships in the country, right side by side, and bringing those cars back and wholesaling them. So I learned the art of buying right, bringing them back, washing them, running ads for them, going to the shopping center, selling the car, getting the title work done, and I was making $1,000 a week. So all of a sudden, instead of making $100 a week, I was making $1,000 a week. And the reason I was making $1,000 a week was that same dealer would come back and put a pack on his car, $1,000 pack, and then he'd mark the car up $2,000 to $3,000. So I just had that advantage, that competitive advantage of no overhead, and so it was just always that deal and always that taste of money.
Right.
So we didn't grow up rich. I was the middle son, so the time I got my age, we had the taste of money, so we never had everything. We didn't have the brand new cars, but we had a nice car. We didn't have 10 pair of Uggs. We had one pair of Pumas or whatever it was. But I always had the nice stuff. You know? So it was kind of getting that taste. It was like, man, I want to always have nice things.
Yeah. Because a person that never gets to the other side of having nice things. Right. I always tell people, if you've never driven a nice car, you don't know what it feels like. If you never stayed at a nice hotel, if you've never eaten at a nice steakhouse, you don't know.
You don't know.
And that can be frustrating, especially as a coach trying to get people to the other side to where they can experience that. At what point did you choose the vehicle of banking? Because you got into investment banking, and for the purposes of these people who are watching this, explain what that means.
Yeah, so had a good, successful life, and for me, every deal I tried to find a problem, turn it around, and create a solution for it. So whether it's commercial real estate, instead of buying, a $100,000 farm and selling it and making a $10,000 fee, I would go get an option on it and said, how can I take the same farm and cut it up into pieces and develop it and make a $500,000 fee. And so I watched the original movie Wall Street back in 1987. And he had his big phone and he was walking down the beach. Michael Douglas, Gordon Gekko was his movie name, and he said, I can remember when $800,000 was a good year, and now that's just a good day. I'm like, I want to do what that guy does. And that was hedge funds, investment banking, mergers and acquisitions. And so I ran into another fellow in New York City and said, we was doing another deal, raising more capital for privates and for a public company. And he said, why don't you come work for me up here in New York, get your Series 7, because that's what you have to have in order to buy and sell companies and make a commission and shares, get equity, sell equity, and get your Series 66. And so I went and stuffed myself in a hotel room in Atlanta and had an 800-page book, and I went to studying. It was 2 weeks worth of studying. Called him up and said, I passed the test. And he's like, you passed? And I said, well, yeah. Tennessee, we have smart people in Tennessee as well, but never forget that moment either. But that started my journey on the investment banking. So it was, we banked small cap, micro cap, took private companies public, and literally enjoyed living in Knoxville, working out of New York, and basically taking companies all over the country, private companies public, that needed money.
And they come to you, so I have a privately held company.
Private held company.
A guy like me comes to you and says, what? I want to take this company public.
Take it public, or I just want to exit. I want to sell the company, I want to take it public, and can you help me? And or most of the time they come to me needing capital because they run out of capital. So we would fund them, raise capital, whether it was real estate development or businesses or whatever. And so 9 out of 10 of them were businesses. So we would look at their company, look at the market cap, and see what we think we could raise and what we could do. And there's several ways to go public, but we always did it the bootstrap to New York, which is what I call it. We always did it the poor man's way. Because that's the companies that I dealt with were companies that weren't that liquid. And Coach, most people think public companies are big companies, right? They just think they're this big behemoths, and most of them are. But there's 10,000 publicly traded companies on the over-the-counter market called the pink sheets.
Yes.
And so that was the market that I kind of specialized and banked while I was in banking.
Yeah.
So that's the market that I kind of evolved to moving forward. So I really enjoy that market. I really enjoy helping entrepreneurs take their business. I tell people in the public company, the reason most companies never get off the pink sheets is because they can't put all the pieces of the puzzle together.
That's right.
And
Yes.
it's finance, it's legal,
Yep.
it's accounting, it's product, it's management, it's the board of directors, it's patents. It takes,
Yep.
it's like baking a cake.
Excuse me.
If you leave any one of those pieces out, the cake never rises. And that happens a lot of times.
So and that happens more
Than ever, yeah.
That's right, more than not. It happens more than not. So when you say pink sheet, because I was one of those people who thought same thing you said most people
Yeah.
think. Public companies are big companies,
Right.
Google, Amazon,
Yeah.
and the interesting thing I always hear, because there was a private equity guy named Adam Coffey that wrote Empire Builder, who's
Yeah.
a big private equity guy.
Oh, yeah.
And I did an event
Love
with him
Adam.
at the Greatness Factory.
Great guy.
And really smart. And he always used the example of the two wealthiest people in the world, Bezos and Musk. Bezos owns 9% of Amazon now.
Yeah, probably.
Just
Yeah,
9%.
Yeah.
Elon Musk owns, whatever, 10% of Tesla.
Yeah.
And they're two of the wealthiest people in the world.
Yeah.
But a lot of people think differently, right?
Right.
So a pink sheet stock means what? Because I feel like a lot of people don't know what that means.
Yeah, so a pink sheet by definition is anything considered anything $5 a share or less.
Yep.
And it's traded on what they call the over-the-counter markets,
Yes.
which is you have the NASDAQ, which is a national market exchange, and you have the New York Stock Exchange, which is a national market. And pink sheets is just another market, just like those two, but they just have different regulations to be on the pink sheets.
Yep.
Less stringent than the NASDAQ or New York.
Right.
So that's why you have more people there. And the New York and NASDAQ have gotten even more stringent in the last 2 years. So people that are on NASDAQ have even fallen back to the pink sheets
Okay.
for whatever reason. So
So it's a startup. It is a startup company, but it doesn't have to be.
Didn't have to be, yeah.
It could be a company that's doing well. It's just
Yeah.
and it goes public and
Yep.
it's under $5
a share.
a share.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And why do pink sheet stocks sometimes get a bad name?
Yeah, because while the NASDAQ in New York, to be on a national exchange, you have to follow certain compliance rules, guidance, financials, audited financials.
Yep.
On the pink sheets, you don't have to have all those things. You don't have to have audited financials. You can have reviewed financials. You can have what they call alternative reporting on the pink sheets.
Yep.
And it's literally just less stringent things. On the pink sheets, you don't have to file quarterly filings,
Okay.
annual reports,
Yep.
because most of them don't have the money to be able to do that. But to use your quote, you can either be an amateur or a pro.
Right.
So, and to use Stephen Covey's quote, I start the begin. What is that?
Begin with the end in mind.
I begin with the end in mind. So
Yeah.
as I begin processes, I think here's where we're going to end up at. Here's where we're starting. Here's where we're going to end up at. And what, checking boxes. What boxes do you have to
Right.
check to do that?
Right.
And those boxes are painful boxes in the public world. You're in a glass house.
Right.
When I got my Series 7, Series 66, my teacher said, anything you text, write, email, call, whatever, assume it's going to be on the front page of the Wall Street Journal.
Yeah.
So I always kept that in mind. So,
Yeah.
So
how many companies, just to step back just a second, how many companies as an investment banker, and that was in Knoxville, but also in New York City?
yeah, I had to work out of New York because that's where
Okay.
the broker dealer was. You had to
Okay.
be within 50 miles of your broker dealer.
Okay. So you would live in New York for
I
periods
would
of time?
go, yeah, I would fly up on Mondays and fly back on Thursdays.
Wow.
And then if I'd have a client in Atlanta, I'd be in Atlanta. If I had a client in
Yeah.
Miami, I'd be in Miami. I'd be in California. So I was literally, as a banker, all over the country.
Yeah.
And we took, hundreds of companies public
Yep.
or raised them money. So I've raised over $1 billion in capital.
Okay.
I call it the hard way. So I didn't work for Goldman Sachs. We had a small broker dealer.
Okay.
I had about a group of about 7 of us, and I would go out and grab the deal, and then I'd go out and grab the money, or somebody else would get the deal, and I would go get the money. So we just kind of all partnered and worked together. We just had a great group.
So the primary skill you learned during that season of your life was what? Because you were privy to things.
Yep.
You saw the action.
I did.
Right?
Yep.
It's like, this is a seat at the big table.
Seat at the big table.
And you said, this is the big table.
This is what Price Pritchard calls a quantum leap.
Yeah.
When I watched that movie, that was a quantum leap from 800,000 a day.
Yep.
You know, when 800,000 to a year.
Yep.
You know, I used to make 800,000 one year. Now it's just a good day.
A good day.
I said, I want to live that. I want to do that. I want to grow up and do that.
Right.
And
it's fascinating how that just
Just
flipped the
boom.
switch in
Yeah,
you.
it did. It was just,
So you got to see the deal makers. You got
Yeah.
to see the raising of capital. You got to see the deployment of capital. But I think one of the biggest things that you got to see, based on me knowing you and the period I've known you, is the missing structures that companies had.
yes.
All these things you talk about. They may have a great concept, but they don't have the sales, or they don't have the operations, or they don't have the leadership, or they don't, because I feel like that's been a huge part of you building HITC.
Yes.
Is putting together just a remarkable team of very skilled people. I mean, just the people that, that we listen to today that are on the team in Asia or
wherever. Yeah.
I mean, it was like one skilled person after another skilled person.
I've always said, you don't want to be the smartest person on the team. You want to hire the smartest people around you. So as we're bringing all this wealth of knowledge to the table, and everybody's inputting, and we have people writing checks, buying equity to be a part of the team.
Right.
So I don't know how many people out there that have people come to a company and say, hey, can I buy a piece of equity? Can I write you a check for $100,000 minimum to come work for you?
Right. Because they want to be part of the deal.
They want to be a part of the deal. They want to be a part of the team. And just very blessed to have such smart people.
So one day, let's go to story of origin. Because first question I wanted to know was, why did he create, why was he fascinated and interested in creating this product?
Right.
Right? Where was the story of origin where you had a revelation, there's a sudden dramatic moment, and you go, I'm going to do something about this problem? When was that?
Yeah, so I just exited back in 2016.
Okay.
Just stepped down as chairman, and I'm like, now what am I going to do? And my dad was sick, and so my dad said, I'm not going to be put in a nursing home. You're going to take care of me right here at the house.
Yep.
And so what did that look like?
Yep.
And back in the day, there was just like 3G. So before 3G life I was born, there was no Uber. And now with 5G, there's going to be so many more technological changes that can happen, so many more things that can happen. So we got 5G, what all can happen. And so with the population aging, so we're in an economy where people are living longer.
Yep.
And you've got a shortage, there's like 110,000 CNAs and nurses shortage. So people's living longer, and you got less caretakers taking care of them.
Yep.
That's a problem. So I've always been able to see problems. I'm like,
Yep.
how can we solve that problem?
Yep.
And so we started. Indie Living was the private company.
Okay.
And I had a big house in Knoxville, and I took a whole guest room and said, all right, let's start doing sensor technology. So we demoed and beta tested sensor technology in the room, out of the room, in the bed, out of the bed, falling on the ground, not on the ground, if this, then that. And that rolled into LiDAR technology and radar technology, camera technology, going out into facilities saying, hey, what problems do you guys have? And at the time, it was falls. So people were falling and dying.
Okay.
So I was like, I want to save lives.
Yep.
Everybody's got a mom or dad. Everybody that I talked to had a mom or dad either living by themselves or with together, and they had a fall risk. And if mom or dad were living together, dad would fall, and then they'd have to put him into an assisted living facility. And I was like, so when they go in the assisted living facility, there's no cameras in these facilities, and people wear lanyards or watches, and they hate wearing lanyards or watches.
Yep.
I was like, so how can we be different? How can we create something that's special? How can we create something that solves a problem so that people are living longer, got less people taking care of them, and you got to solve that problem. We think AI technology can solve that problem. We don't think, we know it can, because we're doing it right now in 24 facilities. And our product is, no lanyards, no watches. It's camera technology is what we settled on, because that was the best out there. And it solved the most problems. And 5G is allowing us to do things that you had never even thought of possible. And so in development right now, to where people are going around taking 2 hours to take their temperature in these nursing homes. In the very near future, this camera in the room will take that temperature 24/7.
Wow. So every day there's new advancements.
Yeah, every day, right
and
now.
it's like so my mom worked in long-term health care for a long time. My mom's been a nurse her whole life, and she got into long-term health care. Then she got into really helping to run facilities. And I called her and I said, tell me about the problems you have. And everything you just said, she said.
Wow.
Because I'm dealing this with my grandmother right now. My grandmother has 24-hour care.
Which is expensive.
She fell at home. And broke some ribs. And it's not easy to break ribs at 78, 80 years old. And now it's, got to have somebody with her, which burns through a lot of cash.
Back in the day, before Dad passed away in 2012, it was $25 an hour, 24 hours a day. Easy math. It's expensive.
And so really, a lot of people, if they stay at home, are burning through all of their retirement. All the money they got. So, and then you say, I'm going to take this to where? So you say specifically, where does the technology, where's HITC taking it to right now?
So we're taking it specifically to the nursing homes. That's where the biggest problem is, where they got dementia, which we're dealing with elopements. And elopements is basically when the resident gets out of the facility without eyes on the residents. And that's a huge fine to these facilities. Have falls.
That first one on elopement, that's happening.
It's
happening. That's happening
right
monthly,
now. Florida,
weekly, somewhere.
Out, in Minnesota, they got out and walked out and froze in the creek. I mean, it's all across the country. And so you got falls that are in assisted living facilities. That's where you see most of the falls. And so they can get around, they just need a little bit of help. And so they're wearing their lanyards, and when they get back to the room, they take their lanyard off because they hate wearing it, makes them feel old. And that's when they fall. We have one of our investors that his mom fell, and she was one of our beta tests, and I was like, it's just, and the same thing happened. She got into her room, took her lanyard off, got on the couch, walked all the couch to go to the bathroom, and she fell. And she laid there for like 2.5 hours unattended. And that happens all the time.
So elopement is one, that the product, and how does the product help with that?
So it's biometric facial recognition. So if you're in a nursing home facility and you're an elopement risk, if you have dementia, this literally takes a picture of your face, and if you get near an exit, it sends a video clip and a text. Mom's near the door. While we were installing the elopement process at one of our facilities at 1:01 in the morning, what we learned is if you're in this lady was in a wheelchair, so she rolled up to the wheelchair next to the sliding doors. If you put your foot on that door for 15 seconds, because of fire code, it opens up. So they know the tricks. So here it is, 1:01 in the morning, she's getting out of there because they don't want to be in there. And then, and sure enough, it sent an alert. Had cameras, had eyes on her the whole time. And all of a sudden at 1:03, she comes rolling back in. And mom was safe. And then the daughter came to the facility the next day and said, I heard Mom got out. And the facility's thinking, well, this is a self-reporting deal, so we have to self-report it. It's a $100,000 fine. But because they had eyes on her the whole time, they didn't have to report it. So they saved money. The daughter was really, really, really happy because they had eyes on Mom, and Mom was only out for 2 minutes, and they knew where she was the whole time, whether she had been down the facility down the street that didn't have cameras, that didn't have our protection. We call it Safeguard, Wonder Guard. She said, Mom may not be alive. I mean, so we're really just saving lives. And that's what's so special about building a company with smart people and have a product that's saving lives that also has 2 patents. So we've got 15 provisional patents. We've got 2 patents that are, it's my first patent I've ever done. So they're pretty cool. We got the greatest patent attorney, in-house patent attorney, Jürgen Vollrath, that's worked for SAP.
Yeah.
And again, it's part of the team. He's building our patent portfolio.
And part of that is, okay, so the way this is different than just cameras, because I'm sure there's
Right.
people out there that are thinking, well, why can't you just put cameras
Right.
up in these places? Explain that, because they could put cameras up in there,
they
but it's not tied to the AI,
Right.
and it doesn't have this functionality on the back end. Is that really the difference?
That's it. So we got cameras filming us right now.
Right.
And so it's not doing anything.
Right.
And if our cameras were filming us and I fell in the floor, you would get a video text
Gotcha.
and a clip.
Gotcha.
Video text and a clip.
That's right.
Video. Did they really fall? Did they hit their head? Did they slide down? What actually
Okay.
happened?
Yep.
We had a lady that she lost her oxygen and she died because her oxygen fell out of her nose and they didn't know how long she'd be in the room without oxygen.
Yep.
And so again, it's just so many things.
Yep.
Our vision for the nursing home and assisted care facility was I want to own everything that goes on in this facility to save lives.
Yep.
From giving their medicine, to falls, to elopement, to when they get their food,
Right.
the whole 9 yards.
Yep.
And it's so fractionated and so
Yeah.
underserved.
Yeah. And the big problem there, again, which is what my mother said, is understaffed,
Understand?
human error,
Yep,
and other problems that come along with tending to that many people.
that's it.
Because at one time, my mom, I think she said for every one resident, for every 23 residents, there was like one nurse or something. It was a real bad ratio.
It's not good.
And when you say that, it's like, oh man, that's, there's one person tending to 23 people at one time, or whatever the ratio is.
Right.
And I thought, man, that's a problem.
Yeah.
It occurred to me back then. I'm like, that's a problem.
Yeah.
So, all right, so that's one problem it solves. You got elopement,
Right.
you got falls,
Right.
and the third problem the technology solves.
It's time compliance,
Okay.
which was one right out of left field.
Okay.
So we rolled out as a company with our fall detection.
Yep.
Saying we're going to go out and crush the world because we know it's a problem.
Yep.
And our first facility that we went in acknowledged the problem.
Okay.
It said we do have falls.
Okay.
We acknowledge it, but our bigger problem is time compliance.
Yeah.
These facilities have W-2 employees, and they have what I call 1099 employees, which are staffing agency staffing
Yep.
employees, which is non-employees. And so they're staffing about half of their staff with third-party not 1099 employees. And those, the CEO's like, Jane says she's coming in here at 6. We staff for her to be here at 6.
Yep.
We staff for her to leave at 6 at night. But Jane comes in at 6:23.
Yep.
She takes a 15-minute break at 7:15 in the morning, but she stays out to 7:45.
Right.
And she's in and out all day long. And they have what they call the buddy system.
Yep.
And the buddy system is we both going to the place and working together. And I sign you in, you sign me in. We put a piece of paper, turn it in, and it's been done like that in the industry. Our first beta test, so we designed a product, we pivoted because we're small. It's just AI technology. We put our coding team to work.
Yep.
And within about 6 months, we had a product that says, all right, it's biometric facial recognition. So when you come into the facility, it's going to capture your picture. I got
Yep.
there, 6:01 in the morning.
Yep.
And I left for a 15-minute break at 7:30, and I'm back in at 7:45. So it's in and out all day long, and it kind of reconciles my time to the time I'm supposed to be there.
Right.
And what we found on a small 100-bed facility, $36,000 in premiums in payroll that this one facility had paid, that the person wasn't there working.
Yep.
And it was verified, compliant, and the state agencies are like, man, nobody's been able to quantify this, and now you're quantifying it,
Wow.
and it's compliant, and there's no question, here they are, and
Yep.
the AI technology is better than the facial. I mean, we can see the same person's face. I mean, you can look
Right.
totally different. They're coming in with mask on, but it captures their eyes, and
Right.
it's pretty sweet. And but it's they're supposed to. So the healthcare companies are staffing because they're supposed to have like 3.2 hours per patient day. Like I'm supposed to be with each patient that long.
Yeah.
And so when they're not meeting those staffing needs, when they're stealing from the signature, they're also stealing from the patient.
Right.
So I'm supposed to be getting 3 hours a day of service, and I'm only getting
Gotcha.
2.5.
Yeah.
And so it's a big issue with all the staffing companies.
So do you see, obviously, as the technology comes out, do you see more utility for the product? Meaning what you've created could also be used
In schools.
In schools, okay.
In prisons.
Give me an example.
Well, in schools, it can be used, again, it's biometric facial recognition, which AI can recognize a face, it can recognize a gun, it can tell if you see a gun in a parking lot, automatically lock the doors down the school. If the shooter gets into the schools, it can literally tell you with cameras in the schools where the shooter's at. The shooter's on the north wing, exit the south wing.
Right.
There's just so many, many ways we can save lives.
Yeah.
And that's kind of becoming the theme for AI technology. It's, it's doing things, that we can't do.
Right. So right now, HITC is in, what year is it in?
So we went public in 2018.
Okay.
And then it's 2024.
Wow.
So it's taken that time to build the team.
Yep.
To build the product.
Yep.
To build the board.
Yep.
And to install the product and roll it out. So now we're in our commercial phase, we call it. And we're so excited. Like I said, we spent 2 days here, and boy, we've got, if you go to our website, it's an amazing team, and we're proud of it. And
really is. It really is an amazing team. And when you get talented players together, like this particular team, man, it's
well, you don't have to recreate the wheel. When you're on my team, I'm buying your 50 years of prior experience. And they're buying mine, and we're buying Mark's, and everybody's buying everybody's. I'm like, I got another book of mine, who. I found my who. If you find your who, then it frees up my time. Like my wife's like, you're busier than you've ever been, but you've got more time than you've ever done to do the things you love to do. So coming down here for 2 days, I love that with my team, and then talking to investors and getting new shareholders in, and just kind of, leading the way.
So today, a person, obviously it's a publicly traded company. People can buy stock in the company.
Yep.
And how do they do that? If a person's out there, because I've had people come to me and say, I've never bought stock in a publicly traded company. What do they do to do that? Where do they go?
There's 2 things. You can go to our website, www.getitc.com. And then there's a little tab up there that says where to buy stock. And what it's going to tell you is you can go to E-Trade, Scott Trade, any of those online brokerage accounts, Charles Schwab, E-Trade, Fidelity, and there's ways to buy them. And it's, you got to sign the forms. Usually it's online. It takes you about 2 days, and you got to transfer the money in. And but that's how most people buy our stock is online, through those companies.
And so that's one way to be involved in the company. Okay. So right now, people could go. It's interesting because we come to the Greatness Factory, did some events. Just talking about where the company's going, what problem it solves. People just go in there right in the middle of the thing and buying, boom, 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 right? And they're buying shares.
So, there's buy shares. So the symbol's HITC. And Dr. Reyes says we need, instead of HITC, we need to call it high tech, because we are a tech company.
Wow.
So that's kind of a new paradigm. It's like that's another A member saying, hey, we're a high tech company, but we've always called it HITC, but which is our symbol, but it's kind of fun. So we love. And part of a CEO is to drive shareholder value is to get new shareholders. And I always say, big or small, we need them all. And so I need the retail, the small and pop guys that has $100 they want to spend, and I need the institutional guys that have 10 million that they need to spend. So it's a blend of all of it. And so it's we need volume on the pink sheets. Pink sheets, since they're hard to buy, the stock volume is the thing that you work on. So we talked about that today, is how do we get the volume up? The only way to get the volume up is to just tell your friends and family, and all of a sudden it gets infectious. And then when we start putting out these facilities across the country, and the press releases will be our stock symbol, and the people know how, I mean, Amazon didn't start out at, $1,000 a share. They all start down here where we are.
Exactly.
So.
And then the other way to be involved, is there another way to be involved in the company?
There's another way to be involved, is so everything right now is publicly traded. We filed our 10K today, so everything that's public is out there. But there are non-public stuff that is going on. So we are in a capital raise, and so we have you sign an NDA. And when we sign a non-disclosure agreement, that means we're bringing you over the wall, which means you can't go out and buy public stock now, because you've crossed that line. And you can invest personally, and then we just do it to accredited investors only. $100,000 minimum subscription. And so that's that way, and that's a 6-month hold. And that's the second way. So retail on the market, private off the market. And then our whole goal is to literally, as we built the team, built the product, built the management, built the patent portfolio, is to uplist to the New York Amex.
Yep.
They call it the American now,
Yep.
which is a minimum $2 stock
Yep.
on the American, and the big board's $4.
Yep.
And so we're just checking the boxes. We're acting like we're already up there right now. We're filing our Qs, we're filing
Yep.
our 10Ks, we're PCAOB audited.
Yep.
We've got a fully independent board. We got full management team. So we're doing things as if we were already listed.
Right.
We just have to get the share price up, which means we need more shareholders.
Right.
We need a minimum of 400 shareholders, which is, again, you think of being public, you got thousands of shareholders. Well, you really don't. You start
Right.
out with one, me.
Right.
And I tell you, now we got two, and you tell her we got three, and you got to need 400 of those.
Right.
And so we got to check those boxes. But it's just about checking boxes.
Yeah.
And doing the right thing.
Well, go take me into the future. I know we don't have a crystal ball to
Yeah.
know, but one of the questions one of my coaches always says, if you and I were sitting here at some point in the future,
Right.
and you go, man, this is exactly the way I envisioned it,
Right.
and we came back to the present.
Yeah.
What does that look like? What's the ultimate visions that you have for this company?
Yeah, the ultimate visions is to get, we can't have total market concentration, but the ultimate vision is to roll this out, literally globally, because it's not just a U.S. problem, it's a global problem.
Right.
People in Asia, people everywhere's falling, and elopements, and they're living longer and less people taking care of us. It's a problem, it's a global problem.
Right.
And for me to take this thing globally and save, as many lives as we can every year would be a good thing. And to do that, you gotta roll it out. So we're in our first 24, but we've laid out our path, globally this last 2 days with our team, and just to get it in every facility out there, and and then literally change legislation, because legislation, like we're working with the states, Medicare, Medicaid, those people, they're liking what they're seeing because they're going to these facilities and seeing people that need this product. And there's a couple of years ago, it wouldn't have been thought of having cameras in a nursing home is bad, but you can make the cameras like an avatar. It doesn't have to be a full body. You can blur it out, but when you're in those facilities, it's really about safety and taking care of mom and dad with dignity, and letting them age peacefully and have the best care. I mean, that's all about, giving good care to our parents that are aging. They deserve it.
Solves a real problem. I think if I was summing this podcast up today, it's probably creative problem solving.
Yeah.
Going after a big problem.
Big problem.
And probably remarkable boldness.
Yeah.
So if we were breaking you down and I was looking at the characteristics of people of interest have a specific knowledge, impeccable skill, they got a big prey drive, they got a confidence that converts to boldness, they got an impression of increase, they got a connectivity, right? And they got some kind of unique skill from their past that has uniquely qualified them to be a specialist versus a generalist.
That's really it. I mean, it's really just dialing in on what you do best and letting other people do what they do best, and bring it all together and
go do big things.
Go have fun. Go do big things. Seat at the big table.
Hey, seat at the big table.
When you ring the NASDAQ bell, and when you ring the New York Stock Exchange bell, to me, it didn't get any better than that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just. And
that's like winning a national championship.
It is. I just want to do that over and over. Right. Brady's got 7 rings. I want 7 rings. That's kind of what I think of. What drives you? If you ask me my B drive, that's it. I want to do this over and over because I enjoy doing it with the people I enjoy doing it with.
Yeah, it really is a journey, and it's an enjoyable journey. Scott Boroff.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for being with me on Person of Interest and being here at the lodge, man.
I love it. I love it. This place is beautiful. You need to come see it.
Absolutely.
For all the public companies out there, this is a place, great place to have a retreat.
You've given us the idea to market this in a new way for public companies to do their board retreats and their strategic planning sessions.
Yes.
And it really is perfect for that.
That's good.